Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our second module on monitoring and evaluation. If you're joining us for the first time, kindly check the YouTube channel. You see the module one on monitoring and evaluation, where we discuss about the overview of monitoring and evaluation, the purpose, why we carry out M&E, the characteristics of M&E, as well as the benefits of M&E. These are things that you need to understand so that you appreciate this second module. Thank you. So for today, we'll be talking about the second module, which is selecting indicators, baseline, and targets. We will look at the respective indicators, what they are, the baseline, and also targets. Now, for the outline for today, we'll be discussing about the definition of terms. We'll be talking about the components of indicator reference sheet. We'll also discuss types of indicators, and lastly, we'll talk about characteristics of indicators. Now, what are indicators? As the case may be, or as we may want to define an indicator, indicator simply it's like a measurement of an objective to be achieved, a resources mobilized, an output accomplished, an effect obtained. Now, what do I mean by this in a nutshell? An indicator is a measurement that tells you that this activity has been achieved, or this output has been achieved, or this result or this outcome has been achieved. That is the simple definition of an indicator. We are used to an indicator all around our life, day-to-day activity. A child that is ill, you see the parents putting their hand at the neck of the child. Simply, they want to check if the temperature is high or low. So putting your hand there, your hand is serving as an indicator. It's just on the, I'm using that local experience just to share with us here. All right. In some of the developing countries where we find ourselves, all right, some developing countries, you see some drivers that will be driving, and because their headlights are not functioning, they will bring their hand outside to wave that they want to navigate to this point or they want to move to this point. All right. Apart from that, also you see passengers that want to board the vehicle. You see them waving their hands, indicating that please stop. Some of them will tell you one, two. So all those signals indicate something. So that's an indicator. All right. We'll discuss extensively about what indicator is all about. But the simple definition of an indicator is a measurement that tells you if an objective or if an outcome or if a result or if an output has been achieved or accomplished. That's the simple definition of indicator. We also talk about indicator reference sheet because it's not enough having an indicator. You also need to have an indicator reference sheet, a sheet that you can reference and you see all the indicators that you're tracking. All right. So indicator reference sheet is just a document that provides a detailed explanation of and definition of indicators. So it's a document that has all the definition, all the explanation. It shows you how to measure it, what the indicators are, the duration or the frequency, who is responsible, how to calculate it, and quality checks to check on capturing or collecting those indicators. So these are indicator reference sheets. Now, what are the components of indicator reference sheet? So a very good indicator reference sheet has at least the barest or at most five key components. The first component that should be clearly stated is the definition of that indicator. So the indicator reference sheet should clearly define the indicator, provide detailed and precise and reliable definition of that indicator, what that indicator stands for. Now, the second thing that needs to be on the indicator reference sheet is the method and the sources. How do you collect the data? Which tools do you use to collect this data? How do you collect this data? And which tools do you use to collect this data? All right. And also, what is the regular monitoring or periodic evaluation for this indicator? So it shows you the method. It shows you the method. It tells you, so a indicator reference sheet should clearly have the methods as well as the sources. The third thing that indicator reference sheet should also have is the frequency. All right. How often this data should be collected. So you could see an indicator reference sheet. The first thing is you see the definition of the indicator, the method or the sources. You can get this data from so sources. For example, someone that is into selling of clothes, you can have an indicator that you want to measure. All right. You want to know the number of sales every quarter. For example, you want to know the number of people that comes into the shop and purchase something. All right. So the data source will be your sales record, for example. All right. The frequency could be daily, could be weekly. All right. Depend on how. So indicator references should clearly state the definition, the methods, or the sources of sources where the information will be collected or will be seen, the frequency or the schedule, as well as the persons responsible. So if there are lots of people responsible for this indicator, it should be clearly be listed out. That's one of the core things we talked about last week about M&E, which is accountability. So we need to know who are the persons responsible, then the information user. All right. Who are the persons, who are the people, who are the audience using this information? So there are a couple of an example where you say, oh, these are the user of the information. So is it for monitoring project, all right, or program or implementation of decision making, all right, or is it evaluating impact to justify intervention? So you need to clearly state the user. Is it identifying lessons for organizational learning and knowledge sharing, or is it assessing compliance with donor or legal requirements? So you need to clearly state who are the audience. So for some of us that have been in the sector, all right, you see a couple of indicators and you look at the user, you know, oh, this particular indicator, it's not for me. This particular indicator is not meant for me. This indicator is meant for probably at a regional level, or this indicator is meant for at a sectorial level. All right. So there are different kinds of indicators. So reference sheet of an indicator is just a document that encompasses these five components I just mentioned. However, there could be more than five of them, but these are the five key components that should be clearly stated on the reference sheet, and that will guide the person collecting the data. Because one thing about monitoring and evaluation is that you want to set up a system where if any core staff leave from that system, all right, someone coming in will be able to pick it up and run with it. So if you come to an organization, like the first time I came to most of the organization I've worked in, there are a couple of things I always request for when I join. I always request for the indicator reference sheet. I always request for several SOPs. I also request for Gadogram. I always request for so if I'm supervising a couple of persons, I want to see what are the organizational structure of the unit, not just the organizational structure, the unit structure. All right. Let me see the staff. Who am I? Who am I reporting to? Who am I? Who do I have a dotted line reporting to? As well as who also have dotted line reporting platform to me, so that we'll be able to get some of these things. All right, apart from looking at some of the transition reports and the likes of them, but exit report and the like. But these five things are the minimum things that is expected to be seen on the indicator reference sheet. Now, there are a couple of types of indicators. All right, there are about nine of them, but we'll be looking at them bit by bit. So we've already know that an indicator measure shows you is a measurement that tells you that you've been able to accomplish certain things. All right. Now, what are the different types of indicators so that you will now know, okay, these are the indicators that I'm developing. So there is a context indicator. Some persons might be hearing this for the first time. All right. There's what we call a context indicator. All right. So a context indicator actually it measures the context. All right. What is the economic situation or variable? What is the social variable or environmental variable concerning a particular sector, a region, or a group? All right. What are the economic? What are the social? What are the environmental variable? What are the things that you can clearly attribute to certain things, all right, and it is always relevant, or it's always relevant, all right. It's relevant at the national and also regional policies and programs. So you want to understand what are the situations around, all right. So you won't just to understand what is the case in in this in those locations before the project started, all right. So this serves as your primary data element. It serves as your baseline. It serves as your baseline data. So context indicators are those indicators. All right. So I remember a couple of times where we went to a community to do an intervention. I had my team and we had to develop some context indicators. All right. Context indicator for us to be able to gather those baseline data. We're able to know, okay, this is the way waste are being managed or are being managed in this location. This is the way waste are being disposed in this location. They don't have any systematic or well planned or thought waste management system. All right. So we try to understand, okay, what are the contexts? Is it the economic background? Is it the livelihood? Is it that they are not aware, or there are a couple of environmental factors? So the context indicator will help you to gather your baseline data. Now we have input indicator. Remember when we talked about um, M&E, we talked about input monitoring, being able to measure input, activities, and output. So now we are talking about input indicator. So input has to do with the human resources, financial resources, whether physical facility. Remember, I defined what inputs are on module one. So input, any indicator that measures those resources that you need for an activity or for an intervention is an input indicator. So an input indicator already on your plan, M&E plan, we'll talk about it later on. You clearly stated that these are the number of M&E officers you want to use for this intervention. These are the number of program officers you want to use for an intervention, or these are the number of sales rep you want to use, or these are the number of 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 clinicians, or you just have so an indicator that will be able to measure and say, okay, total number of these are the number of resources, number of physical facilities you need, or number of health facilities you need for your intervention. I need 20 health facility and I've been able to get 18. You saying you've been able to measuring that you've gotten 18, that's indicator that helps you to measure to say, okay, you've gotten 18 out of 20. All right, these are input indicator. So measuring those components, those things that will enable you to implement your program, it's called input indicator. Now, process indicator could also be defined as activity indicator. Process indicator helps you to know whether a program is being carried out as planned. Okay, you want to do capacity building for out of school children, you want to do vocational training, you want to do something, you want to train people on data analysis, or you want to train people on. So, process indicator are those indicators that helps you to tell you, okay, yes, you did 7 training, or you did 7 wash activity, or you did this, or you did that, or okay, yes, these topics were taken. So process indicator, activities indicator, it shows you how many have you measured and all those things. So output indicator, as it stands, you remember when I said outputs are the immediate result from an activity or from a process. So measuring measuring the results of an activity, measuring the result of an activity, that is an output indicator. So let me give you an example. For instance, you want to train out of school children, you want to train out of school children on any vocational skill. Let's say plumbing, for example. You want to train out of school children on plumbing. All right. Now, context indicator, you already have a location of where you want to train this out of school children. Now, the context indicator will enable you to say, okay, There are out of school children in this location. All right. And the reason we have this number of out of school children are because of the economic situation of their parents or the economic situation in that location. All right. And these are the core economic situations. They are farmers, they don't pay attention they don't care about education, this and that. And you're able to gather the number of households, the number of out of school children, let's say out of 5,000 children in that location, over 3,005, which is massive, over 3,005 are out of school. All right. You're able to get the context. Why are they out of school? Okay, they don't even have anything doing and this and that. You get know the situation, context indicator. You're getting some of the baseline data that you'll be needing to measure some of your impact. Input indicator. Remember, you want to do training on vocational skill, probably plumbing, as we mentioned earlier. All right. So, input indicator. What are the things you need for this vocational skill? You need a facilitator that will take them through on plumbing. You need a hall for that. You likely need refreshment. Probably they need refreshment. You will need some equipment. All right. You need a projector. If you need uh, you need a couple of things. You need writing materials, all right? You want to provide those things to the participant. You also need some plumbing equipment for practical sections. So all these things that you need supplies of some of the plumbing materials and everything. Taking note of the quantity, the number, putting cognizance of the number of persons you also need to train and the number of breaker sections you want to organize. Now, measuring, you've already planned and say, I want to train 3,005 out of school children. Therefore, I would need one hall. I need a big hall that will have the capacity to train them, or I want to do them in batches. I want to do this. I will need an admin that will enable me to do the documentation. I need also number of admin. I need also number of this. I need that all those things and you have them. These are things I need. These are things I need. Then when you start getting them. You put okay, out of three admin that I plan having, I now have two. Okay, the hall. Yes, I got the hall. One hall that has the capacity to accommodate 3,005 participants, and we will do a breaker section comfortably. So those are input indicators. You're measuring, you're trying to gather those data. You define an indicator by yourself and say, okay, these are things I need for this activity. Process indicator or activity indicator. The training section is going on where you're trying to ask them, okay, do you understand these and these? Was this training okay? Did I train them what vocational skill is all about? Did I put them through of what plumbing is all about? Did I put them through of the basics of plumbing, how they go about it, how they turn the pipe, how they do this, how they do this, how they do that? That is process indicator. All right. So how many sections did I do and all those things? That is process indicator. Now output. Output is the outcome. How many persons have I been able to train? So I can now say at the output indicator, five after 3,005 I plan training, for example, 3,000 were trained of this. These are output indicator. So output indicator measure the effort, result of program effort, the input, the process, the activities, these things result to an output. So that result from the activities is an output indicator. Now, we also have what we call the outcome indicator. So the outcome indicator, remember last week we talked about outcome, impact, as well as the goal and the likes of them. So these are all evaluation. All right, these are what evaluation monitors. So outcome indicators measures the level of success. All right, the level of success in improving service accessibility, utilization, or quality. All this simply means that What are the sources? What are the outcomes from that training activity? Yes, 10 persons participated, or 3,005 participated, or number of persons were trained, and all the. What are the outcomes? Have they started doing plumbing activities? Have they started fixing? Have they started troubleshooting? Have they started? These are outcomes. How many persons have started doing these plumbing activities? How many persons are now have how many persons have established companies or firms or consulting firm where they carry out these things? So that is an outcome indicator. Result indicator looks at the direct and immediate effect arising from the project activities that provide information on changes of the direct project beneficiaries. All right. So what are the results emanating from those activities? What are the results? What are the immediate impacts, if I may use that word? What are the immediate impacts? What are the immediate impacts from those project activities? All right. What are the immediate impacts towards the direct project beneficiaries? These are result indicators. These are result indicators. Impact indicators simply refer to the long term, all right? Impact is more of the long term, all right? The cumulative effect of a program over time. So after this exercise, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years after, or 5 years after, what is the impact? Has it improved the economic situation of of that location, or yes, that location? So what are the impacts? So that is impact indicator. Now there is also what we call exogenous indicator as well as prosy indicator. Exogenous indicators are those indicators that covers they are indicators that covers factors outside the control of the project which might affect its outcome. Now there are a couple of factors that might affect the outcome of an activity of an intervention. These factors are not they were not you did not plan for them. These are things, these are these are these are factors outside the for example, you have an activity, let's use the activity we've been using, which is the vocational training that we talked about. All right. You've already you plan that okay, this activity will result to this output and will result to this outcome, and this is the impact you're aiming at. You're aiming at reducing the number of out of school children that might fall under the poverty level or thereabout. So you want to strengthen the you want to strengthen the economy of that location. So you want the impact of that little vocational activity that you've done. You're envisaging such a magnitude of impact. Now, the impact you're aiming at, there are some factors outside the control of the project that might just affect this. So factors, for example, attrition, where scenario where some persons couldn't, maybe, for example, remember when we had COVID outbreak. So there are a couple of things that somehow affected it. Maybe the training section that you wanted to do was a physical section, plumbing, vocational section, hands-on, all right? But because of COVID outbreak, social distancing and the likes, you resorted to virtual training. So there are those factors outside the control of the project that now affect the outcome of your intervention. These are exogenous. Now, prosy indicators are indirect way to measure the subject of interest. What do I mean? These are indicators that you want to measure. You want to measure you're interested in knowing, you're interested in knowing the number of You're interested in knowing the number of people that have completed, or no, you're interested to know the number of, of people that have achieved or acquired this knowledge. Now, what is proxy indicator? Because you don't have, for example, you don't have a baseline, or you can't readily tell these are the people that started or something. You can just use a proxy. There is a clear example for proxy indicator. So in health intervention, particularly in HIV intervention, when you want to measure viral load coverage. So there's what we call viral load coverage. Now, on the indicator reference guide, all right, proxy indicator was used to measure to calculate viral load coverage, where you look at the number of people on treatment 6 months ago and the number of people with viral load results 6 months after. So people with viral results 6 months after, the number of people on treatment 6 months ago. So the number of people on treatment 6 months ago might be 100. The number of people with viral results 6 months after might be, let's say, 70, for example. Mind you, in 6 months, 6 months ago, which is 6 months ago, let's assume that from January to June is 6 months ago. All right, meaning that from July, yeah, July, August, September, that way. So if you want to check for the viral load coverage as at July, so you look at number of people in July that have viral load results. There might be 70. Number of people, number of people uh, currently on treatment that were on treatment in January, there might be 100. But now you now divide and you get your coverage. But take a look at this. This is 100. 100 of them might not be the people currently on treatment this July, because some of them might decide to transfer out, some of them might not be active and the likes of them. So there are a lot of things there. All right. So it's a proxy way of calculating that. All right. So proxy indicators, you're trying to indirectly measuring the subject of an interest. So that is proxy indicators. So what are the characteristics of good indicator? A good indicator must be smart. I believe you must have heard this before, but we need to reinforce it. A good indicator must be smart. It must smart simply means S stand for specific, that's to be clear and focused. M stand for measurable, should be quantifiable, something that you can measure, quantifiable, reflecting changes from here to here. It should be attainable, all right, reasonable in scope and also achievable. So when you say attainable, it should be achievable. It shouldn't be something that is not achievable, all right. You cannot give an indicator that is not achievable, all right. It should be relevant. It should be relevant. It should be something that is pertinent to the review of performance. It should be relevant to what. So you're doing vocational training and you're developing an indicator to measure maybe the goal of that vocational training is to reduce, or the goal of that vocational training is to improve the economic strength of that of people out of school. Then you are now developing an indicator, number of people sleeping in class and all. No, no, that is not even relevant at all to the goal you want to achieve. All right, it should be time bound. It should be time bound. There should be, okay, this is time, this is progress, this is trackable. Yes, it could be time bound. So, okay, this is how it should be from this period to this period, from this period to this period. All right. So it shouldn't just be open and vague. So an indicator should be smart. Another word we also use for a characteristics of indicator is that cream. It should also be cream. So it should be smart and as well as cream. So it should be smart cream. Cream simply means it should be very clear, shouldn't be ambiguous, should be relevant, as I mentioned earlier, economical, It shouldn't be something that you have to spend your whole fortune, or you have to spend the whole project money, you have to spend your capital just to track. No, it should be economical, it should be adequate enough to tell you that changes has occurred, and it should be monitorable. An indicator that is not monitorable, it's not an indicator. You cannot monitor it if it's not monitorable. Now, what are the key take home for today? Remember, we talked about selecting indicators, baseline, and target. Now, what I believe by now you should now know, okay, these are the different types of indicator. These are the characteristics of an indicator. So my indicator needs to be smart, my indicator needs to be clean, and okay, this thing I'm doing is input, so I should have an input indicator. This thing I'm doing is an activity, so I should have an activity or process indicator. So I believe we now understand what these indicators are and how you go about them. So what are baseline? So baseline is a kind of we know we've mentioned baseline a couple of times. So baseline is qualitative or quantitative information that provides data at the beginning of or just before an intervention starts. So at the beginning of it or before an intervention starts, that is baseline. Then targets are established for each indicator. Target. What do you want to achieve? Starting from your baseline, all right? What is the desired level of improvement you're expecting? So what is the desire? So these two things play a key role when it comes to definition, when it comes to indicator. So you should have a target, you should have an aim, where you're aiming at. So these are the two key take home. Kindly subscribe, like, comment, and also share. Your comments will be attended to. Kindly put your comment there, responses, and all of them. We will address every comment and provide clarification. If you're yet to join our community, kindly please do so. Subscribe and join our community on Telegram. You enjoy every information that we share on this page. Thank you. Kindly share your questions on the comment box, and I'm available as well as my team. They are all available to respond to them. Thank you.